My beloved child, listen closely because what you're about to hear is not just another message, it is a moment of truth that will shake something deep inside you, because right now, at this very second, while you are watching this, while you are breathing and trying to move forward with your life, there is a shift happening in the heart of your soulmate, a realization forming quietly, slowly, almost painfully. And the most shocking part is not that they are realizing your value, but that they are realizing it at a time when you are no longer waiting the same way you once did, and that changes everything, because there was a time when you gave your energy freely, when you stayed up thinking about them, when you tried to understand their silence, when you made excuses for their distance, when you convinced yourself that love meant patience no matter how much it hurt, and they felt that, they knew that. Even if they didn't fully appreciate it, they became comfortable in the idea that you would always be there, that no matter how long they took, no matter how inconsistent they were, you would still be waiting with the same heart, the same hope, the same unconditional love. But something inside you began to shift, not suddenly, not dramatically, but quietly, like a candle slowly dimming after burning for too long without rest, and that quiet shift is what they are starting to feel now, even if they cannot explain it, even if they try to ignore it, because energy does not lie. And the connection you shared was never ordinary. It was never something that could simply disappear without leaving echoes behind, and now those echoes are getting louder in their mind, in their heart, in their soul, because they are starting to see what they had. They are replaying moments, conversations, the way you looked at them, the way you stayed even when things were unclear, the way you chose them even when they were unsure about choosing you. And that realization is hitting them in waves, stronger each day, heavier each night, because now they are beginning to understand that you were not just someone who cared, you were someone who truly saw them, someone who accepted parts of them that others never noticed, someone who loved them in a way that is rare, deep, and irreplaceable. And the painful truth they are facing is that they didn't meet that love with the same intensity. They hesitated, they delayed, they held back. Maybe out of fear, maybe out of confusion, maybe because they thought they had more time, but time does not wait, and neither does growth. And while they were standing still, trying to figure things out, you were evolving, you were learning. You were slowly detaching from the version of yourself that kept chasing clarity from someone who was not ready to give it, and now that you are no longer chasing, now that your energy is no longer reaching out in the same desperate way, they feel the absence. They feel the silence, they feel the distance that they once created, but now it feels different, now it feels final. And that is what is awakening something inside them, a realization that is both beautiful and painful, because they are finally seeing your worth clearly, but they are also realizing that they might have lost the chance to experience it the way they once could have. And this is where everything changes, because when someone realizes your value too late, it creates a storm inside them, a mix of regret, longing, confusion, and urgency. They start wondering if you are still the same, if you still feel the same, if there is still a door open, if there is still a chance to come back and do things differently. But what they don't fully understand yet is that your journey was not meant to stay stuck in their indecision. Your journey was meant to elevate you, to teach you that your love is powerful, but it should never come at the cost of your peace. And now you are standing in a different energy, whether you realize it or not. You are no longer begging for clarity, you are no longer questioning your worth, you are no longer shrinking yourself to fit into someone else's uncertainty, and that shift is exactly what is triggering their realization, because people often recognize value not when it is freely given, but when it is no longer as accessible as it once was. And this does not mean you were taken for granted because you were weak. It means you were strong enough to love deeply, and now you are even stronger because you are learning when to step back. And as they sit with this realization, as they feel the weight of what they lost or might be losing, they may try to return, they may try to reach out, they may try to reconnect, but the question is no longer just about what they feel, the question is about what you deserve, because you are not the same person who once waited endlessly, you are someone who understands their value on a deeper level. And when they come back with realization, you will be looking at them with awareness, with clarity, with a different kind of strength, and that is where your power lies, not in making them regret, not in proving anything, but in knowing that your love is not something that should be realized too late, your love is something that should be recognized, honored, and reciprocated in the present. And if they cannot meet you there, then their realization becomes their lesson, not your burden. And this is the truth that many people do not talk about. That sometimes the most painful realizations come after the opportunity has passed, and sometimes that is necessary, because it teaches growth, it teaches accountability, it teaches the value of timing, and right now, as you are listening to this, you might still feel connected to them, you might still wonder what they are thinking, what they are feeling, if they will come back, if things will change. And the answer is not as simple as yes or no, because what truly matters is not just their realization, but your evolution, because you are no longer the person who waits blindly, you are the person who chooses consciously, and that changes everything. And here is the part that will stay with you long after this message ends. The moment someone realizes your value too late is the moment you must decide whether you are willing to go back to a version of yourself that accepted less than you deserved, or whether you are ready to move forward into a reality where your value is seen, respected, and matched without delay, because love is not just about connection, it is about timing, effort, and mutual recognition, and if those things do not align, then no matter how strong the connection is, it will always feel incomplete, and your soulmate is learning that now, in real time, in a way they cannot ignore, in a way that will stay with them, and whether they come back or not, whether they express it or keep it inside, their realization is already happening, and your journey is already moving forward. And the most powerful thing you can do right now is not to wait for their realization to reach you, but to continue becoming the version of yourself that knows their worth without needing anyone else to confirm it, because the truth is, the right person will never need to realize your value too late. They will see it, feel it, and choose it in the present, and until that happens, your growth is your priority. Your peace is your responsibility, and your love is something that deserves to be met. Not delayed, not questioned, not discovered after it's gone, but recognized in the moment it is given, and that is the shift that changes your entire story forever. My beloved child, now the story does not slow down, it becomes even more intense because what is happening inside your soulmate is no longer just a quiet realization, it is turning into an emotional pressure they cannot easily escape. Because every day that passes without you being the same version they once knew is making them confront a truth they tried to avoid for a long time, and that truth is simple yet deeply unsettling for them. They had something rare in their life and they did not treat it with the urgency and respect it deserved, and now that awareness is beginning to follow them everywhere, in the silence of their room, in the middle of their conversations with others, even in moments where they try to distract themselves. Because once the heart recognizes what it has lost or is about to lose, it does not simply forget, it starts searching, questioning, replaying everything again and again, trying to find the exact moment where things began to slip away, and in that search, they keep finding you, your words, your patience, your presence, the way you stayed even when it was difficult, and that memory is no longer comforting them, it is haunting them, because now they understand the depth of what you were offering, and the weight of what they failed to give back in return, and this is where regret begins to grow, not the kind of regret that disappears after a few moments, but the kind that settles deep within, because they are starting to see the contrast between what they had with you and what they are experiencing without you, and that contrast is powerful, it is undeniable, it is something they cannot ignore no matter how much they try to convince themselves otherwise, because connections like yours are not easily replaced. They are not something that can be recreated with just anyone, and the more they try to move forward without fully understanding what happened, the more they feel the absence of something real, something genuine, something that cannot be forced or faked, and this is the stage where they begin to question their own decisions, their own fears, their own hesitation, because they are realizing that it was not you who lacked anything, it was their inability to recognize your value at the right time. And that realization brings a kind of discomfort that forces growth, because now they must face themselves honestly, without excuses, without distractions, without pretending that everything was fine, and this is not easy for them, because it requires them to admit that they were not ready, that they were not consistent, that they allowed something meaningful to drift away, and at the same time, there is a part of them that is still holding on to hope, a hope that maybe you are still there, maybe you still feel something, maybe there is still a chance to reconnect, to explain, to fix what was broken, but what they do not fully understand is that time changes people, experiences reshape emotions, and the version of you that once waited endlessly is not the same version that exists now, because you have gone through your own process, your own awakening, your own realization that love should not feel like confusion or imbalance. And while they are just beginning to understand your worth, you have already started understanding your own, and that difference in timing creates a gap that is not easy to close, because it is not just about feelings anymore, it is about alignment, it is about whether both people are ready at the same moment to give, to receive, to commit, and when that alignment is missing, even the strongest connections can struggle to find their way back, and this is where the tension grows even stronger, because they feel pulled toward you, they feel the urge to reach out, to say something, to break the silence, but at the same time, they feel uncertain, they feel afraid that it might already be too late, that you might have moved on emotionally, that you might have built walls where there were once open doors, and that fear is not unfounded, because when someone learns to value themselves after being in a situation where their worth was not fully recognized, they naturally become more protective of their energy, more selective about who they allow back into their life, and this is exactly the energy you are stepping into now, whether you are fully aware of it or not. You are no longer available in the same way, and that is not a loss, that is growth, that is transformation, that is the result of everything you have experienced. And as your soulmate continues to process their emotions, they are beginning to understand that love is not just about feeling something, it is about acting on it, it is about showing up. It is about choosing someone consistently, not just when it is convenient or when the fear of losing them becomes real, and this understanding is coming to them now with a clarity that they did not have before, and that clarity is both a gift and a burden, because while it helps them see the truth, it also forces them to face the consequences of their past actions, and this is where their inner conflict becomes strongest, because part of them wants to correct their mistakes, to come back and do things differently. But another part of them is unsure if they still have that opportunity, unsure if you will receive them the same way, unsure if the connection can be rebuilt in the same form, and that uncertainty is something they must sit with, something they must feel fully, because growth does not come from avoiding discomfort, it comes from facing it, understanding it, and learning from it. And while all of this is happening within them, your journey continues forward, your energy continues to rise, your perspective continues to shift, and you are slowly stepping into a space where you are no longer defined by what they did or did not do, you are defined by what you now know about yourself, about your worth, about your capacity to love and your right to receive that same level of love in return, and this is the moment where everything becomes clear, not necessarily easy, but clear, because you begin to see that their realization, as important as it is, does not automatically mean that things will go back to how they were, because you are no longer the same, and that is something that cannot be undone, and this is where your power lies, in the ability to decide what comes next, not from a place of longing, not from a place of fear, but from a place of self-respect, because you have learned that your value is not something that should be discovered after it is almost gone, it is something that should be recognized, appreciated, and honored in the present moment. And as your soulmate continues to awaken to this truth, the distance between realization and action will determine everything, because realizing your value is only the first step, acting on it in a way that aligns with your growth is what truly matters, and until that happens, your path remains yours, your journey remains yours, and your heart remains something that deserves clarity, consistency, and a love that does not arrive when it is almost too late, but one that arrives at the right time, fully aware, fully present, and fully ready. My beloved child, the final truth is simple, yet powerful. Their realization is real, but your growth is even more real, and it matters more now than ever before. You waited once with an open heart, but now you stand with awareness, and that changes how you receive everything. They are beginning to understand your worth, but you have already lived through the pain of not being understood. This is no longer about proving your value, because your value was always there even when they failed to see it. The connection still exists, but the version of you within that connection has evolved into something stronger and wiser. If they return, it will not be to the same person they once left behind, because you have transformed beyond that moment. Their regret may be deep, but your peace must be deeper, or you will lose yourself again in the same cycle. Love is not just about feelings, it is about timing, and the truth is they are only now catching up to what you already know. You are no longer waiting for someone to choose you, because you have already chosen yourself first. This shift within you is what makes their realization feel so intense and so urgent at this very moment. They feel the distance now, not because you disappeared, but because your energy is no longer chasing them. And that absence is teaching them a lesson they could not learn when you were always available. You must understand that late realization does not always equal right timing, and that difference matters deeply. Your heart deserves consistency, not confusion, and clarity, not silence disguised as love. If they truly value you now, their actions will reflect it without hesitation, without delay, and without excuses. But if they remain unsure, then their realization is simply their lesson, not your responsibility to fix. You are stepping into a phase where love must meet you at your level, or it no longer belongs in your life. This is where your power becomes undeniable, because you are no longer afraid to walk away from what once held you back. And in that power you will either receive a love that aligns with you or release what no longer serves you. Because in the end, the right love will never arrive as something too late. It will arrive exactly when you are ready and when it is ready for you.